A healthier microbiome for a healthier you. Hello, everybody. My name is Joanne Parkin. I'm a registered dietitian, master's level nutritionist. I have about 50 years of experience in this profession, and very exciting to bring to you some really new and exciting research about your microbiome. So let's get started. So, what exactly is your microbiome? Your microbiome is the sum of all of the viruses, fungus, all of the microbes that live within your gut. I will also be describing about how to avoid the gut busters that destroy the microbiome. You'll learn about diet and lifestyle strategies that promote a healthy microbiome and the newest and latest research on probiotics, prebiotics, and postbiotics. So, what exactly is the gut microbiome? So, when I talk about the microbiome, I guess we could say equivalent to the gut, right? So, it's all of the sum of the 100 trillion microorganisms, including bacteria and viruses and fungi, that live within your gut. The genes inside your gut and the microbial cells are really what makes up the gut microbiome and can weigh up to 5 pounds. And it's really like an ecosystem, kind of like a rainforest, an ecosystem of plants, animals, and insects. Here's some microbiome facts. The majority of the microbes are found in the gut. You do have some in your mouth and in your esophagus and in your stomach, but really the majority in your small and large intestine, especially the colon, the large intestine. There's more DNA in your gut than there is in the rest of your body. And 90% of your serotonin, that feel good hormone, a neurotransmitter that actually we thought was produced in the brain, some of it is, but 90% is in the gut. And 70% of your immunity resides within your gut microbiome. And your gut microbiome is unique to you. It's your microbial fingerprint. So, what exactly does this gut microbiome do for you? We're familiar with what happens inside our gut, and for the role of the gut to help with protecting against pathogens and improving our gut motility. But there's also some outside the gut benefits, such as boosting your immune system and the effect on blood cholesterol and lipids. And if you have what we call dysbiosis, that's what I mean about too many bad bugs and not the right kind of good and bad bugs within your gut, that this type of microbiome can affect a number of organs and really can contribute to a number of kind of nasty health conditions. I think particularly what's of interest is the effect of the gut on the brain. It's called the gut brain axis. The gut can influence your mood, stress, anxiety. That's because these neurotransmitters that are produced within your gut travel what I call the vagus nerve highway up to your brain and have a tremendous influence on your brain in terms of cognitive function, inflammation, thinking skills, and so forth. As I said earlier, 70% of your immunity is in your gut. So what you have here is kind of a complicated slide. I have to admit, it's pretty weird, right? So here's the gut epithelium, which is the inside of the gut here. And what's lining your gut epithelium is a single cell layer that protects you and keeps everything in the gut that needs to stay in the gut. And right on the other side of the gut, the single cell layer, that's what that is, are all these immune cells. So your gut microbiome and your microbes in your gut communicate with your immune cells and provide a boost of immunity. But if there is a break in the wall of the gut and you have what we call intestinal permeability, where these tight junctions that hold these cells together become compromised, and you have weakness in these tight junctions, then what can happen is toxins and inflammatory compounds can leak across the gut, called leaky gut. And that means that all these compounds and toxins can get into your blood and circulation system and go everywhere throughout your body. And so that you have some symptoms of a leaky gut, of course, the typical digestive issues, but you can also develop skin issues. How about autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis? Because those inflammatory compounds leak across, right? And inflame your body. How about some of the brain fog that maybe you're experiencing, or even mood disorders? Again, if you're having some of those signs and symptoms, you could have leaky gut. Now, another kind of really interesting, I would say, research and development about the role of your microbiome has to do with hunger control and weight management. And here I'm showing the role of how probiotics and prebiotics work together to help you to, right, control your hunger. And it's kind of a simple process, and I'm going to go into more detail on this in the next few minutes. But really, what happens is that when your gut bacteria, your probiotics, will feed and populate and feed on the prebiotic fiber, that produces some really wonderful, beautiful protective compounds called short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids trigger the release of anti-hunger hormones. So a healthy gut can actually help you with weight management. So what should you not do? These are the no-nos if you want to protect your gut. I call them the gut busters, right? So what not to do? You should really strictly limit your intake of sugars, refined sugars, and artificial sweeteners. I think probably artificial sweeteners may be even more damaging to your gut than sugar. The standard American diet of fast foods, processed foods, that can inflame your gut and destroy your microbiome. A toxic chemical called glyphosate, which you find in the herbicide called Roundup. Residues of those can get into your gut and disrupt your microbiome. All kinds of food additives, colorings and flavorings and additives also disrupt the microbiome. If you have food sensitivity, that can be damaging to your gut as well. As far as prescription medications, probably the worst offenders are antibiotics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, Aleve. Some of these are also prescription drugs. These can be very damaging to your microbiome. Use them, and only when absolutely necessary, right? And stress can also damage and destroy your microbiome. So that's what not to do. But what can you do? What positive steps can you take to really make sure you got a good, healthy gut microbiome? I'm going to talk about these 6 things in the next few slides. 6 things. You can eat more fermented foods, a diversity of fibrous foods, probiotics, prebiotics, symbiotics, and postbiotics. That's a lot of biotics, right? Well, let's start with the fermented foods. Yes, live microorganisms and probiotics in fermented foods are really helpful to your gut. On the left, you can see those are fermented and retaining live fermentation microbes. My favorite on the list is kombucha. Of course, we probably all familiar with yogurt. Make sure it says it's made with live active cultures. But that's really my favorite are the kombucha drinks. Delicious, delicious. Now, next is fermented, but the microbes have either killed or removed. And I would say here, the one that I think is really one that I enjoy is the sourdough bread. Now, sourdough bread is really kind to your gut, unlike a lot of the breads you might grab off the shelf made with yeast. And it's not just the fact that there might be like gluten in there that maybe you're sensitive to in bread off the shelf. Bread also has a lot of additives. Just read the label, dough conditioners and preservatives. Have you noticed that loaf of bread can sit for maybe almost weeks, right? But when I make my homemade sourdough spelt bread, I have to cut it up and freeze it within a day or so, because it just doesn't heat well, which is okay. We eat it up pretty fast. And sourdough bread actually helps to break down both the gluten and the carbohydrates that's in the bread and the protein. It makes the bread more digestible. But as far as your gut's concerned, the biggest benefit is in that fermentation process and that fermenting of the dough. There's postbiotics are produced. They're not vitamins, they're not minerals, but they really beneficial, friendly, bioactive compounds that are great for your gut. Probably the number one principle as far as your diet is concerned is to eat a diversity of fiber from a diversity of high fiber foods, both from soluble fiber sources and from insoluble fiber sources. But there's a particular type of fiber called prebiotic fiber that is the special kind of fiber that helps really to cause the probiotic bacteria to populate and to grow within your gut. So also one thing you can do besides your fermented foods, eating a variety of fiber and a diversity of fiber, especially those prebiotic fibers, you can add in some biotic supplements. I've been taking biotic supplements maybe for 30 years. Yes, so glad I've known about all of the strategies for maintaining a healthy gut. I think at 73, I think it's one of the reasons I feel like I am super healthy is because I have been adopting all of the strategies that I can think of to keep my gut microbiome healthy, right, and thriving. So when we're talking about biotic supplements, think about your gut being like your garden, right? So the probiotics are the seeds for your gut. That's things like lactobacillus, for example. You might have heard of lactobacillus probiotic, right? That's to seed your gut. The prebiotics, they're these digestible fibers that promote the growth of those probiotics. Think of the prebiotics as being fertilizer for the probiotics. And then we now have a new kid on the block in the biotic world, and that's postbiotics. When you think of postbiotics, think of the compost pile because postbiotics are bioactive compounds that are produced during fermentation. So let's dive a little deeper into each one of these. Probiotics are the live microorganisms that, when taken in a specific and adequate amounts, can provide a health benefit. Now, here's some probiotic facts. Probiotics, they really don't take up residence, but it's when they pass through the gut. They're interacting and communicating with other cells and other dietary components, and they're helping that gut, that rainforest. Remember I talked about your gut being like the rainforest and everything that you need for a healthy rainforest? It's kind of like what's going on with the probiotics. Now, a greater number of colony-forming units in your probiotic that you might buy off the shelf doesn't always equate to a greater benefit because the probiotics now in the research, what they do is that they find this a very specific amount of probiotic bacteria, like lactobacillus acidophilus. Like there's a like you need 1 billion of those, right, to get the health benefit. And taking 10 billion of them is not going to provide any more benefit. And there's more strains may not necessarily be better because you don't want to get too many strains that are going to interfere with each other. So generally, a health of your lactobacillus and bifidobacterial strains are really what you're kind of looking for. But one of the key facts about probiotics is that they are strain specific for specific health conditions. And now we're really going to get technical here. So hang in there with me on this one. I know you probably can't read this slide, but I'm hoping I can kind of show you what I mean by being strain specific. Let's go down here and look at this. Can you see that antibiotic associated diarrhea? Right? See that? Now, this column here says probiotic strain or prebiotic, right? That can help treat antibiotic associated diarrhea. And here I've been talking about lactobacillus, right? Acidophilus, that is very helpful for antibiotic associated diarrhea. But you look how very specific it is, that strain. It's like, the genus and then the strain number. So very, very specific. And it tells you exactly how many colony forming units you need once a day, right? The other one you can take would be Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG. This is there's a lot of great health benefits of this one, by the way. But there's a whole chart. And this, by the way, this chart goes on for pages and pages and pages of all the very specific strains of bacteria, probiotic bacteria, that are helpful for all of these health conditions that you're seeing on your screen, right? So if you have ulcerative colitis, your doctor, your dietitian can go to this chart and can tell you what specific strain of probiotics would be particularly helpful for for ulcerative colitis. Very cool where this research has gone. Now, there's some considerations for probiotics. Probiotics are very fragile and can be lost in transportation, storage, can be killed by heat and light. But the big thing is that they can easily be destroyed by stomach acid. Up to 96% the bacteria can be destroyed in your stomach. But probiotic companies know this, and so they up the amount of the strains of the colony forming units. So boost up the amount, knowing that by the time it gets to your small and large intestine, in fact, where you really need to get those probiotics is into your colon, right? That's where all the action takes place. That's where all the major health benefits occurs, in the colon. But manufacturers are getting smart. They have a couple of techniques that can help protect those bacteria. One is a new rise of a new type of probiotics that are spore forming. These are soil-based microorganisms, highly stable, resistant to stomach acid, and they stay in the gut longer, a pretty good amount of time. Look at that, 21, 28 days. But the drawback to the soil-based microorganisms is a limited number and variety of strains. But I think you may hear more about these in the future. Now, what I'm showing you on the screen is the probiotic that I take, and this is ProBio from LifeVantage. I'm also an independent rep for this company as well, just for my disclosure. But I really like this one because I think it shows you, just like what I was talking about. So you look at the different strains of your probiotic bacteria, which you can see there's a lactobacillus and there's your bifidobacterium there. You can see the amounts vary, right? Well, that's because this is what they have shown in the studies is the amount of the colony forming units that you need to get the health benefit. What I also like with this formula is that you're getting a beta-glucan, a patented beta-glucan that is actually really been scientifically validated in a number of studies to give you an immune system boost. It's kind of what I call the gut-lung connection, and gives you a boost in terms of your respiratory health. And so that's the ProBio from LifeVantage. Now let's move on to the prebiotics. As I said earlier, you've been introduced to the prebiotics, non-digestible fibers that feed the probiotics. Such great research on prebiotics. In fact, I have attended 3 different continuing education webinars on the microbiome in the last year. It's a hot topic in nutrition and health and medicine. And there's a lot of excitement about prebiotics because prebiotics are not strain specific. When you get these prebiotic fibers into your gut, they promote the population of all of your gut microbes. And they have other benefits as well. We already talked about weight management, right? How prebiotics are helpful for weight management. How about improving bone mineral dentistry? Um, Chronic constipation, better mental health. We got there's the gut lung connection. So you have a gut brain connection. Excuse me, the gut brain connection. We talked about the gut lung connection. And of course, do not forget your foods high in prebiotics. This is number one. You want to make sure that you're including some of these in your diet every day. I think probably chicory and dandelion greens, artichokes. Most of us don't eat those on a regular basis, but what about onions, garlic, asparagus, berries, bananas, ground flaxseed meal, beans and lentils, all really great for being high in prebiotics fibers. Now, if you're going to go buy a prebiotic supplement, what do you look for? Even though it says on the front it might be a prebiotic, you really need to turn the bottle over and look on the back label, because what you're looking for are these prebiotic fibers that have been specifically studied for their health benefits. Galacto-oligosaccharides, fructo-oligosaccharides, oligofructose, chicory fiber, inulin are some of the probably most studied that have found to be extremely helpful and beneficial for your gut. Here's a tip. You need to go slow with prebiotics. Start slow. Now it says 2.5 to 10 grams for maximum benefits. I think if you can get in that 3 to 5 grams, that's probably more than adequate. And you want to start really slow and gradually increase the dose. See, because your gut's going to have to adjust, right? There's going to be a lot going on in the gut when you have these prebiotics. So just remember that. Now, some prebiotics have probiotics added to them, and that's called symbiotics. So there's some products on the market that are symbiotics. And when you go to your health food store, you go to your online health food store, you can, look at this, and now you understand what that means, symbiotics. And again, the probiotics and the prebiotics are in pills, powders, and also some are added to food as well, some of the prebiotics. Now, again, if you're shopping for a prebiotic, what do you look for? Well, like I said, don't necessarily look at the label in the front here, which what it says on the front of the package. You want to turn it around and look. What's the prebiotic that's in here? This one has, some fibers that are not commonly that we are familiar with as far as in the research and being researched. I question this one because guar gum is really technically not a prebiotic. It's more of to help you to feel fuller longer. This prebiotic hadn't heard of it before. It's a prebiotic from a larchwood tree, and I only found one study on it. So actually, probably this would be one that I would maybe not be able to recommend. But that one's a little, go back here. But the company I represent, LifeVantage, has an excellent prebiotic, and I can say that I feel like my gut health has been really much better since I've been taking this prebiotic. And it has 3 of the most common prebiotics that you'll see, that some of these, like I mentioned in it previously. And then this prebiotic is also formulated to also help with weight management. Prebiotic fibers alone are helpful, but then brown seaweed extract helps with utilizing and releasing stored fat. And then the L-glutamine, those L-amino acids in the bottom there, you see that glutamine, leucine, lysine. These L-amino acids attach to taste receptors in your gut and can help with appetite control. The prebiotics, remember earlier, they are the fuel in the food for the probiotics. And when that happens, probiotics feed on the prebiotics. This produces short chain fatty acids and also produces anti-hunger hormones. What a novel concept to help people with managing their weight in such a natural way, right? And then the new one on the kid on the block is really the postbiotics. Postbiotics are prebiotics that have been fermented on some kind of a substrate. And this is a process that happens outside of the body. There's a process going on inside the body, but this is what is new with postbiotics is this process that takes place outside of the body. Take out probiotic bacteria, take your microorganism, add it to some kind of a substrate, a fermentation process takes place. You kill this to destroy the activity, kind of the fermentation process. And then all of the benefits of the probiotics and the benefits of the fermentation are all retained within that product. I think the best way to describe this, and I can, by describing probably the most studied postbiotic on the market is a postbiotic called Epicor. And it's also called a fermented yeast extract because what they do is they take baker's yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae is just good old fashioned baker's yeast or brewer's yeast, right? And it's grown on a proprietary medium. In this case, I believe the medium is a mixture of grains. And I kind of can say this, in my brain, I see this big old vat, right? They got the grains in there and they're adding the yeast and they're stirring it up and it's bubbling. But that's great because that process, fermentation process, producing all kinds of potent, powerful nutrients that are good for your gut. Then what they do is they dry it. In this case, they dry it into a powder and then they put it into pills and powders, and we have a supplement, Epicor, a fermented yeast extract. And there's about 15 studies on Epicor showing that it can significantly boost up your immune system in just 2 hours. A couple of studies found that Epicor reduced the incidence and duration of colds and flu symptoms in vaccinated individuals and unvaccinated individuals. I found another study that showed that Epicor was great for people who have constipation, kind of have that slow bowels, and can really be helpful. Now, there's you're going to see a lot more and hear a lot more about postbiotics in the future because they're shelf stable. Because remember, I said that they're probiotics that are put into some kind of through a fermentation process, then they're killed, and then all the nutrients and all the cells that are giving you all the benefits are retained. And so they're better suited for supplements and for food additives. And so it's really, really, really great, the postbiotics. In fact, in Japan, they've been adding them to postbiotics to foods for actually several years now. So someday you're going to go to the supermarket and it's going to say, crackers with added postbiotics. Because you can't add live microorganisms to a cracker and have it sit on the shelf, right? That won't work. But you can with a postbiotic. Now, you can get this fermented yeast extract in pills and powders and gummies. And when I went to the Epicor website, there's literally dozens of products. And you can see some of them here. They even have an Epicor fermented yeast extract for kids. So there's a variety out there. My company I represent, Life and Teach, has a product called Daily Wellness, which has that Epicor added to it, this fermented yeast extract. And this Daily Wellness is formulated for your respiratory health. It's really an immune product, immune enhancing product. It's designed for your immune system. I like to take this during cold and flu season because not only does it have that fermented yeast extract in it, it also has elderberry extract, which of course has been around for centuries, right? That's good to take during cold and flu season. And then some other nutrients that work synergistically to boost up your immune system, vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. Just a whole package of good immune promoting nutrients. Okay, so with that, I'm going to sign off and end my webinar. I hope that you learned that a healthier microbiome means a healthier you. So thank you for joining my webinar, and I really am excited to be able to bring this to you today.